A signal from the star's senior observer, Catherine, had spent 300 years cataloging primitive species across the galaxy. He had seen creatures that built mud huts and worshipped fire. He had documented civilizations that painted caves and feared thunder. In all his long career, the pattern never changed. Young species were small. Young species were weak. Young species needed guidance. Earth was supposed to be another, a simple assignment. His assessment fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the system's outer planets. 3 silver vessels, each one carrying enough technology to reshape a world. Catherine stood on his command platform and watched the blue planet grow larger on his display screens. "Initial scans complete," reported his second officer, a younger Valorian named Vesic. "Nitrogen atmosphere. Liquid water. Electromagnetic signals consistent with early industrial development." Kethron nodded slowly. Everything matched the preliminary reports. This species had barely discovered radio waves. They probably still fought wars over resources. Perfect candidates for integration into the Valorian collective. "Begin standard observation protocols," he ordered. "We will monitor them for 7 rotations before making contact." But on the 3rd day, something strange happened. The unexpected response, a human vessel, appeared near their position without warning. No primitive launch signatures. No chemical propulsion trails. The ship simply existed where moments before there had been empty space. Catherine's crew scrambled to their stations. In 3 centuries, he had never seen a young species detect an observation fleet, let alone approach one. "The vessel is hailing us," Vesic reported, his voice carrying an unfamiliar tremor. "They are using our own communication frequencies." Impossible. The Valorians used quantum-encrypted channels that took most species 1,000 years to develop. Yet somehow these humans had cracked the code in days. "Open the channel," Catherine said carefully. A human face appeared on the screen. The creature had dark skin and steady eyes. Behind him, other humans worked at advanced-looking stations with calm efficiency. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Vessel Horizon," the human said in perfect Valorian language. "We detected your arrival 3 days ago. We thought we would give you time to complete your scans before introducing ourselves." Catherine felt something cold settle in his stomach. They had known. They had been watching the Watchers, the face of humanity. The first formal meeting took place on a space station orbiting Earth's moon. Catherine brought a full security detail, though he told himself it was merely protocol. The humans brought 5 representatives led by a woman named Dr. Amara. OKONKWO. She was tall and moved with the kind of confidence that came from genuine strength, not arrogance. When she spoke, her words were measured and precise. "We welcome you to our system," she said, extending her hand in what the Valorians' databases identified as a gesture of greeting. "We have waited a long time for this moment." Catherine studied her face for signs of deception or fear. He found neither. "You speak our language fluently. How is this possible?" Dr. Okonkwo smiled slightly. "We intercepted your communications decades ago. We've been preparing for this meeting ever since." Decades. The observation fleet had been traveling in complete silence using technology that should be undetectable. These humans had heard them anyway. The meeting continued for hours. The humans asked questions about galactic politics, about other species, about the Valorian collectives, structure, and history. They took careful notes and consulted quietly among themselves. What bothered Catherine most was what they did not ask. They never asked about Valorian technology. They never expressed wonder at faster-than-light travel or artificial gravity. They discussed these things as if they already understood them. Numbers that made no sense. The population assessment is complete. The SIC reported that evening. There are approximately 9 billion humans on their homeworld. Catherine looked up sharply. 9 billion. That's more than the combined population of our 20 largest member species. There's more, senior observer. Vesic's hands trembled as he handed over the data tablet. They have established permanent settlements on 8 other star systems. The total human population across all worlds exceeds 15 billion. Catherine stared at the numbers. They made no sense. According to Valorian records, humans had only achieved powered flight about 200 years ago. Space travels should have taken them another 5 centuries. Interstellar colonization should have been impossible for another millennium. Yet here were the numbers. 8 star systems. 15 billion people. Growing by approximately 3% per year? Send a priority message to the High Council, Catherine ordered. Classification. Extreme urgency. The humans are not what we expected. They are something else entirely. The integration assessment, despite his growing concerns, Catherine proceeded with the standard integration assessment. It was protocol. Every species underwent the same tests. The results always fell within predictable ranges. The humans scored outside every range he had ever recorded. The cognitive evaluation measured problem-solving ability. Most species scored between 40 and 60 on the scale. Humans averaged 112. Their scientists looked at problems that had stumped Valorian researchers for centuries and solved them in hours. The technological assessment measured a species' ability to understand and replicate foreign machinery. Young species typically could identify basic functions after months of study. Human engineers disassembled a Valorian scanner in 3 hours and rebuilt it with improvements the next day. The military evaluation was supposed to demonstrate Valorian superiority and encourage cooperative submission. The humans watched politely as Valorian soldiers demonstrated their weapons and training. Then they offered a friendly exchange demonstration that left Catherine's security chief pale and silent for the rest of the day. Their soldiers move like nothing I've ever seen, the chief reported later. It's not just training. It's something deeper. Something in their blood. The High Council's response, arrived within hours. Supreme Director Thesara herself would travel to the human system to take personal control of the situation. She was bringing 50 warships. Catherine understood the message. The Valorian Collective had maintained peace across 2,000 species for 10,000 years. By ensuring no single species could challenge their authority, if the humans were as advanced as his reports suggested, they represented an existential threat to the entire galactic order. He was expected to keep the humans calm and distracted until the fleet arrived. When he met with Dr. Okonkwo the next day, he smiled and spoke of friendship and cooperation. He offered technology exchanges and cultural programs. He promised that the Valorian Collective would help humanity reach its full potential. Dr. Okonkwo listened to everything he said. Then she looked at him with those steady, knowing eyes. "Senior observer," she said gently, "we appreciate your diplomatic efforts, but we should both acknowledge what is really happening here." Catherine felt his smile falter. "I'm not sure what you mean. Your fleet sent an emergency transmission 8 hours ago. A large military force is currently traveling toward our system at maximum speed. They will arrive in approximately 6 days." Somehow, she knew everything. "We do not intend to make this confrontation necessary," Dr. Okonkwo continued. "But you should understand something important. We are not the primitive species you expected to find. We never were." She stood and walked to the window. Overlooking Earth, the blue planet hung in space like a jewel. Against black velvet, there are things about humanity that we ourselves are only beginning to remember, she said quietly. Ancient things. Powerful things. Your fleet will arrive, and they will see things that will change everything your people believe about the galaxy. Catherine wanted to ask what she meant. He wanted to demand explanations. But something in her voice stopped him. Something old and vast moved behind her words. For the first time in 300 years, Senior Observer Catherine felt afraid. Secrets beneath the surface that night. Catherine received unauthorized access to human archaeological databases. A young Valorian technician had managed to intercept some of their research transmissions. What he found made his blood run cold. Humans were excavating sites on their moon, and on the red planet they called Mars. The structures they were uncovering were ancient. The preliminary dating suggested they were over 15,000 years old. But the architecture, the technology, the very design principles were unmistakably human. Catherine pulled up the Valorian Historical Archives and began searching. He found references to an ancient empire that had once dominated the galaxy. The records were fragmentary, damaged by time and deliberate destruction. But certain details matched what the humans were discovering. The ancient empire had collapsed suddenly, leaving behind hundreds of orphaned species. The Valorians had risen to fill the power vacuum, building their collective from the abandoned worlds. They had always assumed the ancient rulers had destroyed themselves. They had never considered another possibility. What if the ancient empire had not fallen? What if they had simply chosen to forget? Supreme Director Thesara arrived with 50 warships arranged in perfect battle formation. The vessels were massive, each one capable of... They took positions around the human system in a display of overwhelming military power. Thesara was ancient, even by Valorian standards. She had personally overseen the integration of more than 300 species into the collective. Not one had ever successfully resisted. She transmitted her demands from the command ship. The human species will immediately cease all unauthorized technological development. Your military forces will submit to Valorian inspection. Your leaders will accept guidance protocols for the betterment of galactic stability. The response came from Earth within minutes. Supreme Director said, a calm female voice. This is President Alina Vasquez of the United Earth Government. We appreciate your visit, but we must respectfully decline your requirements. Humanity does not submit to external authority. Asara felt her jaw tighten. In 5,000 years, no species had ever spoken to her with such casual defiance. You misunderstand your position, she replied coldly. These are not requests. They are conditions for your continued existence. There was a brief pause. Then President Vasquez spoke again, and something in her tone made Thesara's officers exchange worried glances. Supreme Director, we suggest you review your tactical displays. Then perhaps we can have a more productive conversation. The hidden fleet Thesara looked at her screens and felt her world shift beneath her feet. Human vessels were appearing throughout the system. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands of ships emerged from hidden positions near asteroids, behind moons, in the shadows of gas giants. They had been there all along, invisible to Valorian sensors. That's not possible, whispered her tactical officer. Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. Nothing can hide from them. But the evidence was undeniable. The human fleet outnumbered the Valorian force by 20 to 1. And these were not primitive vessels. They were sleek, powerful, and equipped with technology that made Thesara's warships look like museum pieces. Hold position, she ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. All ships, defensive formation. Do not fire unless fired upon. On Earth, President Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. Now, Supreme Director, shall we discuss terms of mutual respect? The dig sites while the fleets faced each other in tense silence. Dr. Samuel Rivers was making discoveries that would change everything. The archaeological sites on Luna had expanded dramatically. Underground chambers stretched 4 kilometers, filled with equipment that hummed with dormant energy. The technology was clearly human in origin, but it was also impossibly advanced. The carbon dating is consistent across all samples, reported his assistant, Dr. Yuki Tanaka. Everything here is between 14 and 16,000 years old. Samuel walked through the ancient corridors, running his hands along walls covered with symbols that seemed hauntingly familiar. It's not just the age that bothers me. It's the sophistication. This technology is more advanced than anything the Valorians showed us. They entered a central chamber dominated by a massive crystalline structure. The moment Samuel stepped inside, lights began to activate throughout the complex. It's responding to you, Yuki whispered. Responding to human presence. Information flowed across suddenly active screens. Samuel read the words with growing amazement. The text was in ancient human languages that should have been lost to history, yet somehow he could understand every word. This is a seed vault, he said slowly. But not for plants. For knowledge. For technology. For everything we used to be. The demonstrations demanded a meeting aboard a neutral station. She needed to reassert Valorian authority. To remind these humans of their place in the galaxy, she brought her most impressive technology. weapons that could crack a planet's core, shields that could withstand a supernova, medical systems that could extend life for centuries. The human delegation watched her demonstrations politely. When she finished, Dr. Okonkwo stepped forward. "Thank you for sharing your achievements," she said. "Perhaps you would like to see some of ours." What followed left the Sara speechless. Human engineers activated a device no larger than a storage container. A miniature sun ignited in the demonstration chamber, perfectly controlled and impossibly stable. "Contained stellar fusion," Dr. Okonkwo explained casually. "We use these for powering our more remote colonies." Another device created a pocket of folded space that allowed instantaneous travel between 2 points. A third somehow generated matter from pure energy, creating complex molecular structures on command. Each technology was generations beyond anything the Valorians possessed. Each one was explained with the casual tone of showing guests a household appliance. "How is this possible?" The Sara demanded. "Your species achieved space travel only 2 centuries ago. You cannot have developed these technologies naturally." Dr. Okonkwo's expression grew thoughtful. "You're right. We didn't develop them. We remembered them. The genetic legacy." Changes began spreading through humanity like a wildfire. Military personnel, who had visited the ancient sites, found their reflexes sharpening beyond normal human limits. Scientists who handled ancient artifacts suddenly understood principles that should have taken decades to learn. Artists created works of impossible beauty. Athletes performed feats that defied physical explanation, Dr. Maya. Chen led the genetic research team trying to understand the transformation. What she found left her both terrified and exhilarated. "There are sequences in human DNA that we always classified as junk," she explained to the emergency council. "Dormant code with no apparent function. But it's not junk. It's a library." She displayed holographic models of human genetics. Certain sections were highlighted in gold, showing patterns of activation spreading through the population. These sequences encode for enhanced cognitive function, improved physical performance, extended lifespan, and dozens of other traits were still cataloging. Something is waking them up. "What's triggering the activation?" asked General David Stone. Maya hesitated. "Contact with the ancient technology. It's like the old machines are broadcasting a signal that only human DNA can receive. Our ancestors locked away our true capabilities and hid the key in technology they knew only their descendants would eventually find." The implications were staggering. Humanity had been sleeping deliberately diminished for thousands of years. Now, they were finally waking up. The historical truth is Sara ordered her intelligence officers to search every Valorian archive for information about the ancient empire. What they found destroyed everything she had believed about her people's history. The Valorian collective had not risen from nothing. They had inherited their position from the true rulers of the galaxy. The ancient humans' records showed world after world that had been under human protection before the mysterious collapse. Species that the Valorians claimed to have discovered were actually remnants of a human protectorate. The guidance protocols that the collective used were crude copies of ancient human administrative systems. "We built nothing," Desra said quietly, staring at the evidence. "We inherited an empire and convinced ourselves we created it." Her chief historian approached nervously. "There are older records, Supreme Director. From before the collective was founded, they described the ancient rulers as ... gods. Beings of such power that they shaped stars and commanded the fabric of space itself. What happened to them? The records say they left. Voluntarily. They dismantled their own empire and scattered their people across the galaxy." The Sara looked out at the human fleet that surrounded her forces. Those ships carried the descendants of gods, and they were remembering who they were. The ancient networks awaken across the galaxy. Things began to change. On distant worlds that the Valorian collective had ruled for millennia, ancient machines started humming back to life. Defense systems that had been dormant since before recorded history activated automatically. Planetary shields that no one knew existed materialized around inhabited worlds. Each system responded to the same signal. Each system recognized the same authority. The children of the ancient empire were calling, And the Empire was answering. Commander Kethron watched the reports flooding in from across collective space. They're not just waking up on Earth. The entire galaxy is responding to them. On a moon at the galaxy's edge, a door that had been sealed for 15,000 years slowly opened. Inside, lights flickered on for the first time in millennia. A massive ship began its power-up sequence. It had been waiting for this moment, waiting for its creator's children to call it home. The Ark of Remembrance was finally ready to fly again. The desperate Strike Seiza knew she was running out of time. Every hour, humanity grew stronger. Every day, more ancient systems came online. If she did not act soon, the Valorian Collective would be reduced to a footnote in galactic history. She ordered the attack. 50 warships opened fire simultaneously, concentrating their weapons on Earth itself. Plasma beams, antimatter torpedoes, and gravitational disruptors streaked toward the blue planet. It was enough firepower to crack a world in half. The weapons never reached their target. A sphere of golden light materialized around Earth. The ancient defensive shield absorbed every attack, converting the destructive energy into harmless light. The planet hung peacefully in space, completely untouched. Impossible, the Sara breathed. Nothing can stop. But the humans had not simply stopped the attack. They had done so effortlessly. The shields showed no signs of strain. The technology was so far beyond Valorian understanding that it might as well have been magic. Supreme Director reported her tactical officer, his voice shaking. Something is approaching from deep space, something very large. The Ark of Remembrance emerged from the darkness like a legend taking physical form. The ship was enormous beyond comprehension. It dwarfed the combined mass of the entire Valorian fleet. Ancient symbols covered its hull, glowing with soft golden light. It moved through space with the quiet confidence of something that had never needed to fear anything. The Ark of Remembrance, whispered Kethron, recognizing the name from the oldest records. The flagship of the ancient empire. It was supposed to be a myth. The ship took position between Earth and the Valorian fleet. Its weapons remained offline. Its shields stayed lowered. It simply existed, a monument to power so absolute that threats were meaningless. A signal broadcast across all frequencies. This is the Guardian Intelligence Prometheus, custodian of the Ark of Remembrance. I have maintained this vessel for 14,732 years, awaiting the return of humanity. That wait is over. The truth revealed. President Elena Vasquez was transported aboard the ancient vessel. She found herself in a command center that felt both alien and deeply familiar. Like a childhood home viewed through adult eyes, Prometheus appeared as a holographic figure. It wore a human form out of respect for its creator's descendants. I will answer your questions, it said. You deserve to know the truth about who you are and why your ancestors made the choices they did. Alina listened as Prometheus explained everything. The ancient human empire had risen over the course of 50,000 years. They had unified the galaxy not through conquest, but through protection and partnership. Thousands of species had flourished under their guidance. Technology had advanced beyond anything that came before or since. But power corrupts. Over time, the empire had become stagnant. Humans had grown comfortable with their dominance. It had stopped striving, stopped growing, stopped being truly human. Your ancestors recognized the danger, Prometheus explained. They understood that absolute power was destroying what made humanity special. Their creativity, their resilience, their capacity for growth. So they made a choice. They gave it up, Elena said quietly. They walked away from everything. They dismantled the empire deliberately. They scattered humanity across the galaxy, erasing memories and sealing away technology. They wanted their descendants to rediscover greatness through struggle and suffering. They wanted you to earn your power rather than inherit it. Alina looked out at the stars through the ancient windows. And now we've found it again. You have not merely found it. We have become worthy of it. Modern humanity has achieved things your ancestors never did. You built civilizations from nothing. You survived catastrophes. You learned compassion through pain and wisdom through failure. You are stronger than they ever were because you know what it means to be weak. The choice of mercy. The Valorian fleet hung helplessly in space. Their weapons were offline. Their propulsion was disabled. A single human ship could have destroyed them all. President Vasquez addressed the galaxy from the Ark's command center. We could take revenge for the threats against our world. We could crush the Valorian collective and establish human dominance over the galaxy once more. Our ancestors had that power, and now we have inherited it. She paused, letting her words sink in across 1,000 worlds. But that is not who we choose to be. Our ancestors learned that domination leads only to decay. They gave up their empire so that we could learn that lesson without making their mistakes. We will not waste their sacrifice. She looked directly at the Sara through the communication link. Supreme Director, your fleet is free to leave. We will not pursue you. We'll not seek retribution. Instead, we offer something better. Friendship. True partnership between equals. The Sara stared at the screen in disbelief. You're letting us go? After everything we did? We are showing you what power without tyranny looks like. Your collective has maintained order through fear. We invite you to help us build something maintained through hope. The new beginning, the transformation happened faster than anyone expected. Within months, the Valorian collective agreed to dissolve itself. Species that had lived under external rule for millennia were suddenly free to determine their own futures. Some struggled with the concept. Others embraced it with joyful enthusiasm. Humanity took on a new role in the galaxy. Not as rulers or protectors, but as partners and teachers. They shared the rediscovered ancient technology freely, helping other species develop their own capabilities rather than creating dependency. Captain Marcus Chen commanded the first joint human-alien exploration vessel. His crew included representatives from 12 different species, all working together as equals. There are regions of space that even the ancient empire never explored, he told his crew during their first mission briefing. Places where no intelligent being has ever gone. We're going to change that. Dr. Amara Okonkwo established the Galactic Academy for Shared Learning. Students from hundreds of worlds studied together, combining their unique perspectives into new discoveries that no single species could have made alone. The universe is too vast for any one species to understand, she told the first graduating class. But together, we can try. The legacy continues or is past. The galaxy changed in ways both profound and subtle. Worlds that had been scarred by collective exploitation were healed through collaborative effort. Species that had been rivals for resources became partners in abundance. Wars that had smoldered for generations were resolved through dialogue rather than violence. Prometheus continued to guide humanity, but it had learned to trust them with their own decisions. You have exceeded every hope your ancestors held, it told Elena Vasquez on the 10th anniversary of the awakening. They gave up their power hoping you would be worthy of it someday. You've proven that hope was not misplaced, Elena smiled. We still have a lot to learn. That is precisely why you deserve the power. You understand that wisdom has no endpoint. On Earth, the ancient facilities had been open to the public. Millions of humans walked through the corridors where their ancestors had once shaped the fate of the galaxy. They touched walls covered with symbols that felt strangely familiar. They looked at technology that should have seemed alien, but instead felt like coming home. Children born after the awakening grew up knowing the truth about human heritage. They carried that knowledge not as a burden of expectation, but as an inspiration to reach even higher. The final message, in the deepest chamber of the Ark of Remembrance, Lena discovered one final recording. It was a message from the last leader of the ancient empire, recorded on the day they chose to walk away from everything. The figure was undeniably human, but old beyond measure. She spoke with the weight of someone who had seen civilizations rise and fall across thousands of years. To our descendants, whoever and whenever you are, we have given you the greatest gift we could imagine. We have given you the chance to earn your place among the stars, rather than inherit it. We have given you the opportunity to become something greater than we ever were. The ancient woman smiled sadly. We built an empire that lasted 50,000 years. We brought peace to a galaxy that had known only war. We achieved things that most species cannot even imagine. And none of it mattered, because we had stopped growing. We had become monuments to past achievements rather than builders of future glory. She straightened with pride. You will do better. You will build something that grows and changes and learns. You will make mistakes and recover from them. You will face challenges we never knew and overcome them in ways we cannot predict. You will be human in ways we had forgotten. The recording flickered toward its end. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Go find them. Go build something beautiful. Remember that the greatest empires are not made of territory or technology. They are made of hope and love and the courage to keep reaching for tomorrow. The image faded to darkness. Alina stood in the ancient chamber, surrounded by the legacy of humanity's past, looking forward to humanity's future. Outside, the stars waited. Beyond them lay mysteries and dangers and opportunities beyond counting. Humanity would face them all, not alone, but together with the countless species who now called them friends. The forgotten empire had returned. But it would never make the same mistakes again.